Hello, everyone. This is Barbara Turner from the South Carolina Department of Education. Welcome to Developing a Marketing and Recruitment Plan for Schools of Choice. This webinar is designed to share strategies that will help you learn from successful school practices and be more intentional in the marketing of your school choice program and the recruitment of interested families. Chris Swetke, principal of Howell Hall's Arts Infused Magnet School in Berkeley County School District, will be presenting. Chris Swetke is in his 7th year as principal at Howell Hall. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education from the College of Charleston and his Master of Education in Educational Leadership from the Citadel. Prior to becoming the principal of Howell Hall, he spent 3 years serving as both a middle school principal and elementary principal in Charleston County. Since we are recording, all of your microphones have been muted. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat box throughout the presentation. I'll now turn the session over to Chris.
This is Chris. To check in real quick. If you can hear me, just let me know by raising your hand. There's a button up near the top, and that will signal me that you can hear me loud and clear before we get started. So if everybody would just pop in. Thank you, Ms. Riley Stevens. Thank you, Mr. Godfrey. Ms. Barano, are you able to hear me right now? Okay, as we go, obviously, I want to thank Ms. Turner for the invitation and the introduction. My name is Chris Swetke. I hope you all had a great day at school. The intent of this is to really get through today and give you some information, some pearls of wisdom, some nuggets that can help you move forward. As we go, if there's any trouble with audio or sound, please just type it in the chat box, and I will do my best to fix it to the extent that I can. Our session goals today. I want to discuss the need for intentional marketing and recruiting efforts for schools of choice, magnet schools, charter schools, private schools, and other schools of choice. I want to reflect on best practices used in business and real estate to recruit customers, or in our case, students. I want to talk about some key resources and strategies that can improve the marketing of your school. And I'm going to do my best to not actually meet that last session goal. I know webinars can sometimes be a little bit dry, so I will do my best to keep it entertaining and not just read slides to you in a monotone voice for the next 59 minutes. So as that's being said, I want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to type them in the chat box, and I'll be happy to help them or help you with them to the extent that I can. As Ms. Turner shared, my name is Chris Swetke. I'm the proud principal of Howell Hall Arts Infused Magnet School in Berkeley County. We are located in Goose Creek. I'm off I-26 over by Charleston Southern University. This is my 7th year at the school, and my contact information is there. You are welcome to reach out to me after the session. You can reach me through my cell, direct line, or my email. A lot of what I'm going to share today is not my concept. It's not my original work. It is things that I have learned from having the opportunity to visit other schools throughout the state and all over the country. There are a wide, varied network of magnet schools. There are lots of great things happening in South Carolina. I've just been fortunate to visit and meet some other great leaders, so I'm going to share the tricks and tips I've learned from them. When I can, I will try to point you back to the exact school or article or book or story that I kind of stole the idea from. I believe in educational espionage, each other helping each other out, and so I will try to direct you to the primary source of that, but some of these over time kind of get all blended together. So a little bit about my school. I am, as my colleagues in Berkeley and Charleston call me, the principal of Disney World. Howell Hall Ames is in its 16th year. We have received the National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. We are a Kennedy Center Creator Ticket Award. We received the Elizabeth O'Neill Verner Award from Governor Haley back in 2015, and all the other bells and whistles we see up there. We are very proud of the program we offer to our families and to our students. But I should note that 16 years ago, when we started with a National Magnet School grant, we weren't necessarily as popular. This school, like a lot of magnet schools when you first start, they weren't sure how popular it was going to be and if people were going to even come. So we were there, we were trying to get things going, and we were able to build over time. Over the course of the last 16 years, we've gone from being kind of a science project to see if it would work and be popular in our district to now we average about 800 to 1,000 applicants a year for roughly 50 spaces in our lottery. If you would, just real quick, I want to make this as purposeful as possible for you. If you could just type into the chat room who you are, where you're from, and what type of school, and then any burning question or thing you'd like to learn from today so I can kind of tailor this presentation in a way that's most meaningful for you. Okay, Mr. Godfrey, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Barano. Great. Well, it's an interesting mix, so I will try to kind of do the best I can to kind of cover everything you have there, but I appreciate you all joining us today. So let's start with the end in mind. Magnet schools, for the most part, are just like magnets. Magnets need to attract metal or else they're useless. It's just a piece of metal that's not doing any good. You can use it as a paperweight on your desk. Magnet schools need to attract customers. They need a hook, they need a theme, they need a reason why people want them to be there. Most magnet schools are optional, they're extra. A lot of districts could use that or could function without them present. So I always work on making sure that when I prepare my personal school, that I'm looking to make sure I'm very intentional and that I'm always doing everything I can to make our school shine and to make our magnet the kind of place where families want to come and stick. Let's talk about being intentional. I'm a big fan of the show Chopped. If you've ever seen Chopped, it's on Food Network, and they give the contestants baskets of strange items and they ask them to cook food. And I recall an episode a couple years back, and the first round had, I think it was like a pear, maybe some fish, and some broccoli, and the contestants all had to make an appetizer, and one of the chefs decided to mix bacon in. It wasn't one of the ingredients, but as luck would have it, one of the other competitors forgot an ingredient, and this person got through. In the second round, once again, they gave them 3 or 4 items. Bacon was not in the basket, and the chef went ahead and created a meal and threw bacon into it again. This time somebody burned their food, and that chef with the bacon made it through a second time. The third time they're making a dessert course, and on top of all the 3 ingredients, this chef once again added bacon to the basket. And I remember this because Bobby Flay finally stopped him at the end, and before they made the final judgment said, you've used bacon every single time. Tell me why you're doing this, because it hasn't been in the basket yet. And the chef said, well, we all know that bacon makes everything better. And Bobby Flay stopped him, and he said, I want to tell you, that's not necessarily true. The intentional use of bacon by a skilled chef in the right way can make something better. Just screaming the theme or screaming about your school is not necessarily going to make your school better. It's not going to make it more marketable. It's not going to make it more attractive. And unfortunately, most principals, if you're like me, don't have a background in advertising or marketing. We really have to kind of learn this on the fly and learn from each other. So the importance of this is, to me though, is you want to be intentional. You want to have a very clear goal, a picture of your school, and making sure you're using the right tools, the right ingredients at the right time. There's a Simon Sinek video that unfortunately I know is not going to pop up, but he talks about the why, how, and what. And I think one of the things you need to talk about with your school teams or your district teams is knowing your school's why. What schools do is almost always commonly the same. We're all there to educate students and getting them ready to be active citizens and worried about their post-secondary options and making sure they're successful in life. But the thing about magnet schools and schools of choice is our why, our theme, often drives what we do. For example, at our school, we're an arts-infused magnet school. We treat the arts on par with all the other core content areas, and they are embedded in every single thing we do in the school. From the instruction to our classroom management systems, you will see the arts all throughout our school. And we do that because we all truly believe the arts are like miracle grow for little learners' brains. They help the learning stick. They give it relevance, they give it importance, and quite honestly, the thing that they do the best is they make learning fun. If you've ever visited my school or if you ever choose to visit my school, I think the one thing that we hear most frequently is our theme makes it enjoyable. Kids are learning, they don't even realize they're doing it. I would say you want to make sure when you're sitting down to plan your marketing, know the why behind what you're doing. One of my favorite stories to tell goes back to the day I got hired in Berkeley County. We had just finished the board meeting. I was a nervous, relatively young principal. And at the end of the board meeting, one of the board members came up to me and said, "Chris, you just inherited Coca-Cola. We don't want new Coke." And there's no more pressure than the board members patting you on the back and saying that as they send you off to start at a new school in a new building in a new district. And so I spent the whole first year here at Ames kind of studying what we do and what was going well. And there were a lot of things in place that were going great. Unfortunately, there were a couple things that we needed to improve. And I didn't want to mess anything up and invent new Coke. So I started by talking to all the staff, the families, community members, students, anyone who had any interaction with the school, trying to find out what that secret recipe was. At the time, at the end of each year or the start of the new school year, we were expected to give a kind of a state of the schools address to the board members and the superintendent and the cabinet. And I had the pleasure of starting first. And so I want you to picture this in your mind. I'm sitting in a boardroom. Imagine you're a boardroom in your district. And I walked in and I started by saying to the members, I said, last year, one of you pulled me aside and said, I just inherited new Coca-Cola and you didn't want new Coke. Well, I've spent the entire first year here at Ames trying to figure out what our secret formula is, and I think I've got it narrowed down. But what I realized is the ingredients we have aren't much different than any other school in the state or in the nation. But here's what I do know that's different. And I started by pulling out a can of Coca-Cola. And I said, this can of Coke, and it was true, had been sitting in my car all day long. Next, I pulled out a small plastic bottle of Coca-Cola. And I said, this bottle of Coca-Cola has been sitting in my refrigerator in my mailroom for the last 3-4 hours. Then I reached down to a little cooler I had by my feet. And I pulled my hand deep down into the ice. And I pulled out a glass bottle of Coca-Cola, and I shared with them that these glass bottles of Coke have been on ice for the last 12 hours. And I popped the top off, and the little bubbles popped out. And then I asked the members in the audience, and I asked the board members, which bottle of Coke they would like to have for a snack right then. And of course, unanimously, they all wanted the glass bottle of Coke. And so I asked them, I said, well, it's interesting. They all have the same product inside. They're all made from the same ingredients. They all had pretty much the same volume. What made them choose the glass bottle of Coke? And they automatically went back. Each person told a story. It stays colder that way. It tastes better that way. It's the way my grandmother used to serve it to me when I was at her house. And then one of the members finally said, it's just the best way to enjoy Coke. Our goal as not only Howe Hall Ames, but I think our goal as educators and as principals and leaders is to make sure that we're always giving people the glass bottle experience. You can have books and desks and students and teachers at any school. The ingredients are going to all be the same. Your why or your reason behind it, that's going to be your recipe. That's going to be your secret blend of ingredients and how you use those ingredients to get the final product. But I think the one thing that sets us apart in terms of our marketing in our school is we make an intentional effort to put our best foot forward every day, all the time, and every moment. We want every student, every parent, every guest, every visitor that walks through that door to get the gold red carpet treatment and that cold glass bottle of Coke experience. That this is the best a school could be, best foot forward, and we want them to walk away impressed and happy. So one of the things you need to start with, depending on where you are in the process, there are schools that I know some of you here are just starting your programs. There are schools that have been magnet schools for a while. You may have lost your theme or lost momentum over time. And then sometimes I see schools that I like to call anointed and appointed. They come to me and they say, Chris, we've got problems in our school. Our attendance is declining. People don't speak very highly of us. And really, we need to try to go magnet to recruit people back to a school they're not coming to. And I think, when you go there, you have to start by assessing where are you on the spectrum. And then I think you also need to look at how solid is your product. There's nothing more disappointing than thinking you're getting one thing and being sold one thing and getting something else. You want to make sure that the product you have forward, that you put forward, is true to what you're advertising and marketing. If you're an arts magnet school and you say the arts are essential to everything we do, then when you go out there, you should see the arts present. When you say you are working for, I saw someone said IB and career and tech ed. If that's what you're pushing with your theme, those options need to be really strong and they need to be really obvious. If you've maybe taken over a school where scores have dropped, unfortunately, attendance has dropped, and you're not necessarily in vogue in your own district, you may have to go back to the drawing board and really reinvent yourself and think about your theme. So what you are advertising and marketing is quality. You can sell some things. We've all bought something that we thought was good, and been disappointed. I think of all the stuff I bought out of comic books when I was little, that I always had all these grand hopes for, and they showed up, and I was always disappointed. I always think of that movie, A Christmas Story, where he buys the Dakota ring, and he sits there, and he's so excited to get it, and when he finally realizes what it is, he's disappointed. I think one of the things you need to make sure you start when you're planning with your team and you're going through this process is seeing where you are. What is the quality of our product? What is the quality of our school? How tight are we with our theme? How good are we at offering our options compared to other schools like us? And I think one of the best ways to do this, if you haven't already, is go out and find schools like yours. Go out and find schools that either have the same theme or a comparable theme or even just a comparable structure. You might not be an arts magnet school, but you might be putting into a lottery practice. Find other schools around the same size and the type of same settings and look out and look at their processes. So I think visiting schools is one of the best ways to do this, but I think you really need to start by being honest with yourself and your team about, is this a new conversation, continued conversation? Do we need to change the conversation? Or do we have some problems we need to fix before we sell it? So the question I always get, we get visitors here all the time. We average over 1,000 classroom observations by visitors and guests each year here at Howe Hall. I just had some of you who are on this webinar were out visiting me last Friday for a tour, and we always enjoy that. But the question I always get, especially from principals, is where do I start, Chris? I've just been named a magnet school, or the board just voted that we're going to be a partial magnet school. We're going to be taking over a brand new charter school. And I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to begin. What do I do? And here's the good news. You already have what you need in place. Here at Howe Hall, we talk about in visual art the concept of negative space. And if you haven't seen this before, I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin this for you, but every FedEx truck you will see for the rest of your life is now about to be ruined. Negative space is about seeing the things that are there that you already have, but you may not realize it. So for example, if you look at the FedEx logo you have in front of you, if you look closely at the white part between the E and the X, you'll see an arrow. That arrow has always been there on every FedEx logo and every FedEx truck you've ever seen. Some of you may never have seen it until today, and like I said, I apologize, because now every time you see a FedEx logo, you will see that arrow. But you have things in your school that you're already using for marketing. You have people in your school that are great at this. Most schools already have newsletters. They have call-out systems. They have colleges and universities in the area with professors that come and visit and talk about your school. Most schools have access to Facebook, Instagram, social media right now. But the one thing we all have in common is we all work in schools. We all have customers, or in this case, our students, our parents, and our employees who are going to be the people who share that news. And I think one of the most intentional things you have to do when you're trying to build your school or build your school brand is making sure you start by sitting down with those groups of employees and saying, okay, talk to me. I recently had to take my car for a service repair, and when I was going to pay the bill, they looked at me and said, no, you're going to get a call tomorrow. Is there any reason why you couldn't rate our service 4 stars? I was satisfied. I said, nope. They're like, okay, well, when you get a call tomorrow, please rate us 4 stars. And I did. When do we ever sit down with our teachers and say, hey, is our school a 4-star school? Is this a school that you could say everything's awesome? And if it's not, what can we do to fix it? Sit down with your students. There are parents, if you Google your school, if you haven't done that yet, there are all kinds of reviews about everybody's school. And I would encourage you to reach out to your customer base and reach out to your staff and employees and have them, post the good news about your school. It's the most common thing people do these days. And then the other thing is making sure that they know that the conversations they have out in restaurants, in public, at church, with friends and neighbors, those are powerful conversations. Teachers are regarded as obviously the experts of your building. If they're out and they're not talking about your school in a positive light, that can do more damage than any good marketing plan could do. So really making sure that your employees and yourself are always putting your school forward in the best possible light. I want you to take a second and I want you to look at the little Hot Now logo for Krispy Kreme donuts. And I want you to try to think of the last time you saw a Krispy Kreme ad on TV and try to sing the Krispy Kreme song. Now, luckily, you don't have microphones, so I'm not going to ask anybody to join in here and sing it. But the good news is you can't. There is no Krispy Kreme jingle. There is no Krispy Kreme song. And interestingly, Krispy Kreme is one of those businesses that does not spend a lot on intentional advertising and marketing. But I'm willing to venture that most of us in South Carolina have seen the Hot Now sign pop up and have gone in and had a donut. Usually, it's because of word of mouth. I remember when I first moved to South Carolina in the late 90s, I was traveling through Charleston and someone saw the sign. They're like, "You ever had a Krispy Kreme donut?" I was like, "Nope." And they're like, "You've got to go." And the experience was obviously fantastic, but it was how I found out about Krispy Kreme donuts. It wasn't from an ad. It wasn't from a coupon. It wasn't anything in the newspaper or on the radio. It was just word of mouth. And one of the resources you'll see at the end of the presentation is a book called Making Dough, the 12 secret ingredients of Krispy Kreme's sweet success. And I would recommend, if you're looking for just some good strategies on basic marketing and word of mouth advertising, it is one of the great resources to consider, because obviously I think we all know we love the donuts, but at the same time, we all love getting something for nothing. And so if you can use free resources, that's definitely important. The other thing that you want to steal from real estate is, go outside and visit your building as a guest. Obviously I've got a little joke up on there, but there are a couple things you have that kind of market your school just from people driving by. Use that sign to kind of tell the story of your school. Maybe any little success, student of the day, teacher of the week. Our students did this, our students did. Any chance you have to highlight your school, even if it's not necessarily to your current families, will be a great opportunity. Think of the number of people who drive by your school every single day. Use that front sign to tell the story and make sure it's intentional. Make sure you're highlighting the things you want to highlight. I'd also encourage you to really make sure you're working with your custodial staff to make sure your building's neat and clean. Obviously, it sounds like a simple thing, but when you go to buy a house, they spend a lot of time, effort, and energy making sure your yard's always mowed and the house is always clean and picked up and everything looks nice. You want to make sure that first impression, that exterior impression of your building, is a sharp one. Even if it requires getting your local beta club or some of the high schools to come out and help out with a cleanup day, but really making sure that when you drive by that school, there's that sense of pride. It looks like a place where people say, wow, that's where I'd want to send my kid, because they're trusting us with their most prized possessions, and it's very important to make sure you have that curb appeal. I'd also encourage you to have that online curb appeal. The number of times when I get calls from schools and they say, "Chris, we'd like to come visit. We're having some trouble starting up our magnet program or process. We're having trouble getting people interested in coming to the school. What would you recommend?" And one of the first places I do, and I mentioned it just a second ago, is Google. But after I Google, I usually go to the school's webpage. And the number of times I don't see web pages that are either parent-friendly, student-friendly, or more importantly, current. And I think one of the things you'll notice if you ever choose to go to our school's website is the information is always current, the pictures of recent performances. When you go to meet the principal, I may be the only principal who does this, but when you go to the principal's page, you've got my bio, but my cell phone is right there. I give my cell phone out online. My cell phone is part of my signature line in my email. It says not only are we open and available as a school, but personally and professionally as a principal, I'm available there for my parents, from community members. I'm there to answer questions. There are no buffers or walls between the lines of communication between me and the community I serve. And so while not everybody would choose to do that, and certainly I've had my share of funny stories of people taking advantage of that cell phone at unusual times. It's a good practice. But making sure that your website is up and current, making sure if you have a Facebook page or an Instagram account, that you're posting consistently enough to keep people interested, but you don't want to bombard them. And there are times where we have to kind of slow down. I'll get a request from my PTA to post this information on Facebook, and then my media specialist will want to post about Dr. Seuss Day. And then I'll have someone from the district, Chris, you really need to post the lottery. And we can end up posting 3 messages in 24 hours, and we cancel each other out. And the message never gets really through or highlighted the way we want it. So making sure you're posting consistently, but you're not bombarding or flooding your customer base. One of my favorite books is titled The Fred Factor. And, it's, once again, it's linked at the back, so I've got the story there for you. But The Fred Factor it's a story about a mailman. And it's a story of customer service. And I won't get into too much detail, but in simplest terms, the author moves into a new town, and his mailman walks up and introduces himself and says, "My name's Fred, and I saw that you're new here, and how can I help make your mail delivery the best?" And he goes, "Well, I happen to travel." "No problem. When I see that you're traveling, if you don't remember to fill out the card to hold your mail, I'll kind of bundle it all up. I'm going to stick it right down here behind your screen door. That way no one knows that the mail's piling up and you're out of town, and it'll be there for you." And he really goes above and beyond to show quality customer service. It is a great quick read. There's a video series on YouTube that you can look up as well, and I would really encourage you to do it. We don't often think about customer service in public schools. We don't think about marketing and recruitment in those little interactions. One of my favorite places to take my 3 boys, I've got a 7th grader, a 5th grader, and a 3rd grader, we love going to Disney. And when we go to Disney, customer service is at the forefront of everything they do. Every interaction you have with every employee in those parks, for the most part, is positive, it's pleasant, and it's about how can we serve you to the best of our ability. I talked earlier about the glass bottle Coke experience. It's about giving that glass bottle Coke experience to as many students as we can. It's more than just knowing people's names. It's going the extra mile. I'll give you a real simple example of something we do here, even when it's flu season. We have a system in our district that if you're not marked present, it will automatically call you out, call you up, and notify you that your child was absent today. And it's nice and it serves a purpose, but we take it one step further. Each day when we get the absence list, my secretary calls each one of those families to A, ask if the child's okay, and B, if there's anything we can do in terms of getting homework together, sending it home with a neighbor, getting some assignments at the front desk. It's just a small extra little step we choose to take. It takes us a lot more time, quite honestly, and there are days where we struggle to get through all the names on the list by the end of the day, but it's something we hold as important. And it shows our families that, yes, you're absent, but your child was missed and we care, and we want to make sure that they're okay. We do things like that with our lottery process. Like I said, we're on pace to have between 800 and 1,000 lottery applicants this year for only 50 spots. And, every single one of those applications, as soon as they come in, the first thing we do is pick up the phone and call and make sure they know that we received their application and ask if they have any questions about the school, the process, or the program. It's about establishing a personal connection. True, 750 of those applicants, those children will never set foot at my campus. But when you call and you leave a message and they know if they have any additional questions, they can call back the principal on a cell phone. It sets a tone that carries over forever. And so I would encourage you to really make sure that when you sit down and you're coming up with your marketing and your strategic plan, go ahead and make customer service a priority. It's more of a business thought, but it really will pay dividends. Once again, look at your free advertising sources. Word of mouth is always going to be the best. And if you don't know what do parents say about your school, you've got to start asking. I love walking in grocery stores, and when I see kids with my shirts, they always know me. But when I first got here and I first got the job and I was meeting people, if I saw someone in a Hal Hall Ames shirt out at Walmart, I would go up and introduce myself and ask them, what do you think of our school? What can we do better? When I sit down with my teachers, one of the things, you saw those awards earlier, but one of the things we battle here at Hal Hall Ames is we never want to be complacent. We always want to be doing things the best we can without messing up that secret recipe. So we are always asking our teachers what's going well, what can we do better. And one of my favorite things to do is talking to students. a few times a week, I'll just pull my chair up to the lunch table and ask them what they think. And you all know, if you work with kids, they are wonderfully honest about everything that's going on, and the good and the bad. I always joke about the news. People always talk about, oh, I don't want to be on the news. Well, I always talk about, I want to be on the news, but I want to be the last 30 seconds, not the first 30 seconds. The first 30 seconds of the news, if you're on there leading off tonight, something probably has gone wrong at XYZ elementary school. But the last 30 seconds, that finally tonight, let's hear about these kids who were the readers of the week at Hal Hall Ames Elementary. Or finally tonight, as we close out the broadcast, here's the steel drum band from Hal Hall Ames, or a highlight of the chorus. It doesn't have to be a big deal to be a big deal. Making sure, if you have a local newspaper, that you're sending those pictures highlighting kids' achievements. If you have local sports teams, we are very fortunate in this area that between local colleges and professional teams, they're very generous in terms of just letting our choir go out and sing the national anthem. There's nothing better for advertising, getting your students up, acting proudly, displaying great manners, and for all the community to see at a sporting event. Even if you don't have local sports teams in your area, volunteering to serve as ushers at the local high school football game or singing the anthem there, that can change the conversation and show your students in a very positive light. One of the things that we do here is, we do seek out actively awards recognition and to frame the conversation. There are tons of awards that are available out there that you can apply for. And, not all of them are necessarily, the most prestigious things in the world, but it gets you, once again, looking at your program and trying to compete. And people like going with things that won. And I always tell people, one of the things that's on our list before is we came in second one year. We were the runner-up for our subdivision of Palmetto's Finest. And, my kids, my own personal children, but our students at the school were all kind of disappointed. And it reminded me a lot of the Olympics I've been watching over the past couple of weeks. I'm sure you have as well. And there's a big difference between somebody who gets upset and says, oh, I lost the gold. Don't think of it in terms of I lost the gold. Think of it in terms of I won the silver. You can always frame the conversation from two aspects, a negative light and a positive light. And I think it's very important when highlighting your school, when talking about your school, making sure you highlight the positive. We won the silver. We didn't lose the gold. And then once again, if you have not Googled your school lately, I know this is a recurring theme with me, but it is one of the number one things people do. We got a lottery applicant from Alaska just last week because the parents are military. They're moving down to the Charleston area. And the first thing they did was Google schools in the Charleston area, and then they Googled our school specifically. So I would encourage you to make sure that you're looking at what's out there. And once again, if the reviews aren't great, go back to that, that conversation. Is there something we need to fix first before we market it? Or do we need to get some of the people who are fans of our school commenting on there as well? People who are happy don't tend to be the ones who write the Google reviews or the School Digger reviews. So you want to make sure that you've got people who are fans of your school speaking on behalf of your school as well. I've seen through my work here at Hal Hall Ames, I've been privileged to serve as the chair of the Arts and Basic Curriculum's peer-to-peer network, and I've seen dozens of schools in the last few years. I've had the privilege to tour some quality magnet schools and art schools all over the country, and I see people at different points. Usually when they come to visit us, most of them are at the starting point. And I love this picture of Walt Disney, and it's one of my favorite quotes. It hangs on my wall, but it's kind of fun to do the impossible. When we came here, like I said, 16 years ago, I was not the first principal. We had a brilliant leader by the name of Bonnie Dill. Bonnie and I still keep in touch. And she tells me about those first few years when, the magnet grant money ran out and the district wasn't sure if they were going to keep the program, or when they didn't have books for the library and all the parents donated the books. One of my teachers tells me about the time they couldn't find a carpet for her classroom, so she went out and was dumpster diving, believe it or not, at other schools to find a carpet that she could clean up well enough to have a classroom carpet. This program was almost entirely housed in trailers as they were doing construction once. There have been lots of challenges, but I think the thing that's nice is if you were to talk to anyone at my school, they're here by choice. And that's the nice thing about schools of choice. If they're there, they want to be there. So they're more likely to be an advocate for your school. Don't gain all of the awards and recognition and have all the wonderful things that that we've had dropped upon us um, without being intentional in making sure that the fans and advocates of your school are out there purposefully telling the good story and sharing the good news. So here's some resources to consider. I'll talk a little bit about each one. Made to Stick, I was put onto this book this past summer. Made to Stick is a great business book. It talks about creating sticky messages and the way to kind of brand and market. Once again, like I said, most principals don't have that business background. So if you have not taken the time, take a look at Made to Stick. It's a great one. Tipping Point by Mr. Gladwell. A lot of us have read that, but it also talks about gaining the momentum. And that's what I love about magnet programs. When you look at the numbers of our school historically, once again, they were trying to get people in, and now the tsunami, we are well beyond the tipping point. The Krispy Kreme book I referenced, another great book that most of us have heard, Mr. Vollmer's Schools Can't Do It Alone, and then the Fred Factor that I referenced before. Another great article that has some of these pieces that you may want to look at is from Principal Magazine, the National Association of Elementary School Principals. Their journal back in September, October this year was about public schools and schools of choice. And in there's a Telling Your Story article by Sanfilippo and Sinanis, and it is one of the better ones I have seen in terms of this topic and this concept. So I would really encourage you to go there. So at this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions you may have, any comments, any concerns, as well as my contact information. If you want to come down for, we can do that as well. So are there any questions out there?
Chris, this is Barbara. I see that we have a couple of district people on the webinar. How have you been able to work with your school district office for marketing?
That's a great question. We are very fortunate. We have a large district in Berkeley County, but we are very large and diverse geographically. Berkeley County is roughly the size of Rhode Island in square mileage, so we've got all kinds of different things. A couple of things we do that are really beneficial. I've got a great relationship with my Office of Communications, and they're fairly open to us sharing things. As a matter of fact, I think there's one thing all schools have in common, whether they're schools or not. Principals love to brag on their school, so they do a great job of retweeting and reposting things that we put out there. They're always great with helping me with press and relationships and making sure that if I have an event upcoming, but just even something simple. They're usually the front line of people talking to the local media. And I know there are times they'll get calls from the local news station saying, hey, you have anything interesting going on? So making sure I keep them informed of our calendar, of our events. And sometimes, we may not have something going on, but we have enough great things at our school where I might get a call from my community relations director saying, hey, Channel 5, for example, wants to know if you have anything you'd like to highlight today. So we'll throw our steel drums together and they'll come by and check that out, or our drum line or our dance troupe. So really making sure they're informed, and then making sure you're transparent with your processes for magnet schools, and making sure you're well informed. We made sure that our lottery guidelines are published, so PDF on our website so anyone can see them. We have the frequently asked questions that they have at their disposal in case they get calls. But really making sure that they know what's going on. And I'm glad you asked the question. They're a key part of what we do and the success we have in the lottery program.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay.
All right. Well, as I said, this is my contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. And like I said, if you'd like to come down and visit, or if you just find yourself passing through the area, do not hesitate to just shoot me a text and say, Chris, can I drop by? I may not be able to give you the tour personally, but we'd love to have you out here. If you call that cell phone and a little boy picks up, fuss at him and tell him that you're not supposed to answer daddy's phone, and then they will pass it over to me. But I have really enjoyed the opportunity to share the little bits and pieces we've learned here in my last 7 years here with you. And like I said, I'm a true believer that teamwork makes the dream work. And if we're really going to push things forward in South Carolina, we've got to help each other. So even if your school has a different theme from mine or a different setup from mine, reach out to me. And if I don't have the answer, chances are I probably know somebody who's comparable to you that I've talked to in the right direction. So once again, thank you for your time today. I'm going to turn it back to Barbara.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris, and thank the rest of you all for joining us. And if there are no additional questions, you all have a great evening.